Good evening, everyone. The light, of course, is terrible. And I wanted to do an impromptu video. And I don't usually do them this late at night. But I was thinking of things just come about my head. And I was thinking about something. And I says, well, I'll try to relate it back to you as best as possible. And as the thumbnail says, $1 million or 7 years in jail. So I knew these people back when I was running around years ago, and a lot of people were getting pinched, and certain situations, some situations where the FBI or certain other agencies, they would have a mostly airtight case, but there would still be some kind of loose ends and things like that. And I used to hear rumors and stories about, some guy said, John Doe took a rap and they paid him $25,000 and he took the charge. And because if the other guy took a charge, it would be 3 strikes or a big sentence and everything else like that. So you don't hear about a lot of that stuff. There's other people that tell organized crime stories and things like that. But that happened. With my experience and the people I talk to, that happened now and again. And so the guy I knew was a high-ranking guy, and he had just got out of a federal penitentiary. And another guy did some time. So we got 2 guys, and one guy was running a scheme. You heard about the other guy, Mike F., with the big tax on the gas scheme and everything else. And that was a genius scheme. But there were other people that had airtight schemes, even like with legitimate corporate types of finagling and juggling and stuff like that. There were some genius gangsters out there, believe me. Just not the 1 or 2 guys you see on YouTube. There were some geniuses out there that just died off. And he had a good racket. Not many people knew what they were going on. I never found out to this day what it was, but he was going to be jeopardized. He was going in for to be indicted or something. There were some pending things, and it was going to come down to him or this other guy. And the other guy might have been able to get it reduced a little, but you never know how that works. You got to roll the dice. And so he tells the guy, I'll give you $1 million. And you just say whatever, and it'll come to play. And the other guy's thinking, well, he's a moneymaker too, and he probably is figuring, I could earn that, but the charges would be like 7 to 10 years. The charge would be 7 to 10 years, and then if you get the low end 7, you might be able to good behavior and stuff like that, get out sooner. And the federal penitentiaries were a lot back then. The federal prisons were, some of them were like country clubs. So, you know, like would you do that for $1 million buried somewhere, cold cash, protected money, of course, 24-hour security? So he went and he did the time, and he came out, and he got the money. And while he was doing the time, the other guy grew higher in power. He was connected to a visible name that most of the people wouldn't recognize. Joe Blow would recognize the name, but these people had a hierarchy of members, like a corporation, and they're not the recognizable names that you've seen on YouTube or TV or in gangster movies and this and that. There were hundreds of people in organized crime, thousands of people that had big power, big money that you never heard about. And he got the money, and you think he would just ride off into the sunset, and he got in trouble. Then by the time he got in trouble, he blew a big part of that money, and he had to go do 3 years or something like that. He got out. There was only like it was like the fox watching the hen house. Everybody was dabbling into it, and there was a lot of people that they say he owed favors to, that they all come out with their hand out and everything, and they were approaching him and visiting him and saying, "Hey, we gotta have this, blah 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 blah," and everything else. He's like, "Geez, I'm doing the time here, and then you guys are taking the damn money and everything." But that's just the way it is. These people went through money, and you can't imagine. You can't imagine. They lived like kings and queens, and it's not depicted a lot through whatever type of historical media that society has been exposed to. And the other, these two cats were close, and they moved up. Like, they were, some people didn't have the official label of a capo or the underboss and whatever. They didn't have that official title that you see, but these people held power and rank and raked in millions of dollars in a lot of schemes and rackets. And a lot of them had schemes that people don't even know to this day. They've never been exposed to this day. And you just see like people that try, I'm here trying to elaborate. There's other channels and they tell you stories and everything. But it's hard for a person just from hearing words from another person to really digest what is the actual interaction. These are real people that you're rubbing elbows with every day. It's just not fairy tale land. And a lot of people are paranoid with each other. They're paranoid with the FBI, and they blew a lot of money on a lot of different things. And I had he was actually part of on my father's side a cousin that I ain't gonna say names. These people are all dead, but I do like to respect the dead and stuff. But he had a similar situation where he went to Atlanta federal prison, and he took the heat for some crime, and he got paid. When he got out, he got paid very generously, and I happened to be down there uh, at that time, uh, doing some business, making my runs, and uh, I was told out in Queens there's a welcoming home party and everything, and it happened to be my cousin that was getting out of the federal pen. I wasn't personally communicating with him. I just knew I had a cousin, and it would be the first. It'd be the first encounter, and they had members from a couple different crime families that were there, because the media tries to say that all these are just independent crime families or whatever stories, wherever you hear. And no, they commingle. It's just not a bloodbath every day. They commingle and everything, and they honored my cousin for taking the heat, and he got paid, and they had a welcoming home party, and we were out in Queens, I believe, yeah, and it was a big type of mansion in a very high scale area, and I met him, and geez, we looked alike, there was a resemblance, and it was weird because I never saw anybody from my father's side prior to that. And so we hit it off and everything, and he was telling me stories and things like that. And I wanted to know the details, like, well, I got out and I did. But a lot of times you don't really like to talk about the details, because if you got to take a lie detector test, you don't know, so you can't fail. When you say I don't know, the needle don't go. So a lot of times it's not necessary to know details like a sewing circle. What happened? What about this? Tell me about this. You kind of no, you stray away from that. But he was a real smart, intelligent guy, and he said it was easy time. It was easy time. But it would have been a lot harder situation for the other guy to do it from prior criminal record and stuff like that, or whatever's going on. It was a crapshoot back then. And so I don't know. What would you do? Somebody says $1 million, 7 years. But what if you're making $200,000 a year? Would you take the $1 million and go in for 7 years? As long as you had somebody running your operation still making that money, but you want your freedom. But if you were just a regular guy that wasn't earning that much money, and somebody said, "Here's 125,000," you got whatever type of crime it was. Federal crimes are more, not less. They might not be violent, like the different statutes and everything else, legalities, and you might say. And I heard on a lower level, just on a lower scale, where I was like, yeah, hey Jojo, would you do this or that for? No, I'm not doing. No. I'm not. I'm not accepting any offers anytime soon. So it's just like, well, it's a different psychology and everything else. it's a different type of interaction and dialogue, but there were a lot of smart, intelligent people back then running around that knew schemes, that got away with it. They didn't know where to put the money. A lot of people got away with a lot of schemes. Yeah, they caught a lot of people, but a lot of people went under the radar, and there were a lot of people that were bought and paid for too. There was a lot of corruption going on in the legal system. Back then, these guys, these judges and DAs and police officers and detectives, back then they were making $20,000 a year. Back then, 25,000 a year, 30,000 if you got 10 years in. You know, what would they do if they were offered, here's 100,000, make this go away? It happened every day. It happened every day. So everybody's got a price, maybe, maybe not. But when it comes to, taking the heat, go do prison time, but you got some big money waiting for you, that's a different story. So I guess I just wanted to throw this in. Thanks for everybody that watches, and I'll do the daily devotion tomorrow morning around 10, and we'll get that in. We'll get the cup of JoJo in, but I ran out of coffee, so it's an unofficial video right now. It's an empty cup of JoJo. So that's about it. I'm going to sign off from now. Be the kings and queens of your world, and stay great and stay safe.